Hello, my name is Harold Hild, and I'm an Associate Director in the Division of Market Oversight's Surveillance Section. I'm happy to be here today to present to you a basic outline of the CFTC's Market Surveillance Program. But first, the disclaimer. The following training presentation is provided based on restricted use for regulating agencies only. Distribution of this presentation or the training materials outside the initial intent must be requested and approved prior to distribution by the United States Commodity Futures Trading Commission. I prepared this presentation with the assistance of the Office of the Executive Director, and these views are my own and not the views of the Commission. This is a brief outline of today's presentation. First, I'd like to set the groundwork for our tools by starting with our mission, the structure, and workflow. Later, we will review some of the output of the tools. Typically, we would spend the most time discussing the data and the tools. And I would like to mention that the tools we currently use are all built in-house. They change and improve regularly, and they are enhanced to include new and improved data streams from the exchanges in light of some of the new rules that have been implemented. First, our alignment and our mission. The Division of Market Oversight fosters derivatives markets that accurately reflect the forces of supply and demand and are free of manipulation, disruptive activity, and abusive trading practices. The CFTC's Market Surveillance Program is intended to preserve the economic functions of futures and options markets. The Market Surveillance Program's primary mission is to identify situations that could pose a threat of manipulation and to initiate preventative actions. One major area of responsibility is to monitor for compliance with federal or exchange speculative position limits. Currently, there are 9 agricultural markets with federal position limits. Those markets are the 3 wheat contracts, one that trades in Kansas City, the other one trades in Chicago, and the third in Minneapolis. The rest of the commodities are corn, oats, soybeans, soybean meal, soybean oil, and cotton. We refer to exchanges as designated contract markets, or DCMs. The DCMs can set position limits for their own markets. Generally, the DCMs set position limits of their own in other physically delivered markets such as livestock, metals, crude oil, and the soft commodities like coffee, sugar, cocoa, and orange juice. The CFTC does oversee the exchanges and their position limit program for both the federal and non-federal markets. Here we have a description of the structure of the surveillance section. We currently have 52 staff. Aside from our headquarters in Washington, D.C., there are regional offices in Kansas City, Chicago, and New York. Economists and analysts monitor trading in most active futures and options contracts. We are currently aligned into groups covering agriculture, energy, metals, and financial futures contracts. The CFTC has support staff which process huge amounts of data each day. Our surveillance systems and tools rely on the timely and accurate overnight processes that load this enormous amounts of data. This next slide shows a bit about the workflow. On the far left-hand side, you will see that the data we receive for abuse detection is generally T+1 or T+2. Publicly available data, such as cash commodity prices and storage and supply information, are available the same day and can be used in conjunction with this data. The next phase allows for either automated alerts or analyst-driven software to review and analyze all specified market data. Both alerts and tools then allow for situation analysis to be conducted. Depending on the issue being reviewed, the analysts can ask for additional data. They can continue to review the situation without that data. They could be preparing a referral for the Division of Enforcement, or they may choose to close the review and send it to the archives. Now, of course, this is a very general outline, but I wanted to show the general workflow of the surveillance group and that there are a few different outcomes and that the most questionable issues that we deal with are referred to the Division of Enforcement. Now, on the previous slide, we saw that there are automated alerts and analytical tools for the staff to use to work with the data. Here we show a bit more. The top 3 tools are in red and involve futures, positions, and the work there is all generally related. The 4th one deals with trades. Now, reportable levels are the basis for our large trader reporting system. And that topic is covered on the next slide. Which brings me to position limits and hedge exemptions. Our position limit authority comes from Section 4A of the Commodity Exchange Act. Generally, it says that excessive speculation in any commodity traded for future delivery may cause sudden or unreasonable fluctuations or unwarranted changes in the price of such commodity, and is an undue and unnecessary burden on interstate commerce in such commodity. Section 4A further shows that for the purposes of diminishing, eliminating, or preventing such problems, the Commission may impose limits on the amount of speculative trading that may be done or speculative positions that may be held in futures contracts. This provision was adopted in 1936. This authority relates to positions and trades, which is where our analysis for manipulative activity begins. Large futures or cash positions can be the benefiting positions of a manipulative scheme in those markets. A large, concentrated position, usually in the expiring futures contract near termination, is one of the places we begin to review activity. The traditional corner or squeeze of commodity markets would likely involve these large, concentrated positions because these position holders have the ability to force market prices, either in cash or futures, in order to financially benefit another market position. For example, owning a large portion of the deliverable corn supply could benefit the expiring corn futures contract. Large positions in excess of the speculative limit must be hedges, and the trader should be able to show, if asked, that the futures positions were indeed hedges of cash positions or future cash commitments. These traders have hedge exemptions for the excessively large positions, and these positions must meet the qualifications for bona fide positions under the CEA regulations. Section 4C2 of the CEA gives the Commission the authority to define bona fide hedging as transactions or positions that represent a substitute for transactions made or positions taken at a later time in a physical marketing channel. They are also required to be economically appropriate to the reduction of risk, and they must also arise from the change in the value of assets, liabilities, or services. Now, there are a number of technical provisions with regard to the eligibility for exemptions. All bona fide hedges must meet our definition, which is found in Section 1.3Z of the regulations. Now, we also monitor daily trades for compliance with the CEA. Trade practice violations, such as money passes and front running, are examples of trade compliance violations. It is important to note that many trades do not result in large positions at the end of the day, so the violations and the tools used to detect manipulation or disruptive trading use message data and are very different. Message data is a series of data that contains all the information sent electronically to change prices, quantities, cancel or resubmit orders, or change any other relevant field of a placed order. This is data that is related to trades but does not contain the actual trade data and is not required to be sent each day along with the other data. Message data can be used to detect spoofing and other high-frequency trading type abuses. This is not a daily feed, and our analytic capacity to work with this data is new and developing. We are currently developing tools that deal with message data for the future. The CFTC operates a comprehensive system of collecting information on market participants as part of its market surveillance program. The Commission and U.S. futures exchanges employ a comprehensive large trader reporting system where clearing members, FCMs, and foreign brokers file daily reports with the Commission. Aggregate data of reported positions are published by the CFTC in its weekly Commitments of Traders report. Part 15 of the regulations sets the position levels at which traders become reportable for our large trader reporting system. The levels are as low as 25 contracts, which is the default level, but they can be as high as 3,000, for example, which is 3-month Eurodollar futures reportable level. These levels are the key to all the position data that we receive each day, and they are the starting point for our review for violations for position limits. The levels are set by rule and designed to capture anywhere from 85 to 95% of all open positions each day. The levels were last changed in 2006. One last note on this slide is the last statement in the lower right-hand corner, that the position data does not capture high-frequency traders that may take small positions during the day or remain out of the market at the end of the day. So the division also collects other information that can be used along with positions and trades in order to learn more about possible concerns in the market. The Commission gathers trader and owner-specific information on a series of forms from traders, FCMs, and DCMs. This information can be used to better inform the group on aggregation of traders for position limit purposes. The group also receives monthly reports of cash, grain, and oilseed positions and commitments from large traders. We also have access to other exemptions that the exchanges may have granted. This information, along with other publicly available supply and demand information, helps complete the picture. Here we have some examples of the surveillance red flags or issues that we would find concerning. Analysts monitor for these types of situations using the interactive tools we built along with other information that they have access to. Staff also talks with traders or industry participants in order to understand more of the nuances of the marketplace. Staff can reach out to the other federal agencies, they can talk to international regulators, or they can talk to the exchange staff themselves to more fully understand a market situation or investigation. In times of serious concerns, staff and senior leadership could be in communication with these traders and participants in order to more fully understand more complete market dynamics. During the most extreme circumstances, senior staff will be in contact with the Commission. So putting all the pieces together allows the team to either make a recommendation to refer to the Division of Enforcement or close the matter entirely. These next few slides show some of the more probing questions that staff would ask along the way. It is important to note that each situation is different, and the questions asked and the answers given are situation specific, and they change all the time. Automation obviously plays a key role in the work that we do, but there are also judgment calls that apply in certain situations. Primarily, the team will want to keenly understand if market power rests in a few concentrated hands, or if the concentrated participants have the ability to influence either cash or futures prices. Financially settled futures contracts involve a few other questions, primarily related to the price index that the futures contract settles to. Staff must understand the index and who supplies trades and prices to that series. That information would then be used with our other position and cash market data. After thorough review of a market concern, analysts can issue a call for data using the division's special call authority. This is known as Regulation 1805. This authority allows the group to request pertinent information from traders such as books and records or information related to the positions held. Now, slide 16 shows a basic high, low, and 5-minute settlement price graph for crude oil, gasoline, and heating oil. As you can see, there was a significant market event sometime after 9:30 on this particular day. Prior to the use of SAS and the automated tools that we have, staff would start their inquiry with this type of graph to ascertain if a market abuse happened. However, our new tools are designed with a high level of requirements. They must be comprehensive, They must be highly flexible. They must be information dense. They should have a full range of granularity from a global view to a single trade. And they also need to be for a trader positions and transactions. This next graph shows the level of detail that we currently have. We have designed a number of capable tools. This graph shows a similar market event but contains all the trades in all major CFTC markets. Each tiny bubble represents a trade, and by running the cursor over the bubbles, the trade data shows price, quantity, firm, and trader name. This trade data sent from the exchanges also contains trade type data, so we can see if a trade was part of a spread, if the trade was aggressive or not, and we can also see if the trade changed the market price at the time. These types of indicators show up as different colors in our data. We can also see if the order was a limit order, a market order, or a stop loss order. Also, self-cross orders will show up in black. This slide shows the output of one of the tools we use to look for patterns or questionable trading during market events. The panel in the upper left-hand corner of the graph has a zero line in the middle. The cumulative buys are on the right-hand side of the zero, and the sells are to the left. Prices are on the y-axis and increase as you go up. In this panel, the operator has highlighted on a green bubble that showed a V pattern in the upper left-hand panel. This is the general pattern of high-frequency traders. As you see, the buys usually equal the sells, and the green indicator is a non-aggressive limit order pattern. Generally, the HFT traders trade in like quantities during events which last only a few minutes, likely a news release of market data. The other panels show net buys and net sells, profit and loss calculations, and price contributions. Here we have another aspect of the same tool. The main purpose of this part of the tool is to see summary statistics of the different order types, or an intraday transaction data summary. This chart demonstrates yet another iteration of the same tool for the same market event. This slide shows the top traders during the market event. The bars show tick magnitude, net trade quantity, trade magnitude up or down, and buy and sell trade quantities. On this slide, analysts would look for one-sided contributions of significant size. For example, a large buyer or seller or a trader that contributed to price movement. This slide is a report of a specific trader's all futures and options combined position over a 5-year time span. It's a complicated graph, but you can see that the years are on the y-axis and the dates during the year are on the x-axis. As you can see, this trader usually went through an expiration on the short side and often would get more short during the spot period, except for 1 year, that 1 year that's highlighted in pink towards the right-hand side. They decided to go long during the expirations that particular year. And this is an example of one of the tools that we could use in many, many different ways. So with that, we conclude this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to your questions.